In this video, we're going to talk about why we raise pre-flop. So from the perspective of just general pre-flop strategy, there are multiple different reasons why we raise first in as a pre-flop raiser. We raise to show strength, we raise to gain the initiative in the hand, we raise to steal the blinds, and so forth. But one thing that is a bit counterintuitive for beginning poker players is that we also raise to thin the field. And we raise to thin the field because of our equity and our expected value. So here's the thing. The more players that there are in the hand, the harder it is to realize our equity because our equity declines. Because as more people enter the pot, they all have their fair share portion of the pot, their equitable share. And with a lot of our hands, our equity not only declines, but so does our expected value within the hand, the actual monetary amount, the quantifiable profit or losses of a particular situation. And this is actually somewhat counterintuitive for a lot of beginning poker players, because if you think about it from a beginner's perspective, they think, well, I have a good hand. I have pocket queens, pocket kings, or pocket aces. So I want to get 3 or 4 or 5 players in the pot, because the more people that are playing the hand, the bigger the pot will be and the more that I can win. But because our equity declines and our expected value declines in many cases, we want to thin the field. And we'll actually take a look at that in the next slide. Now, I just want to go ahead and show you a quick analysis within Equilab. What I did is I gave every single player in a 6 max game the exact same cards, the exact same range, which you see here. And it doesn't matter what range that we give them. I just wanted to give everybody the exact same range and show that if they're all within the hand, if we click evaluate, which I did, and I didn't let it run nonstop, but what you're going to notice is that everybody has pretty much the same amount of equity in the hand. So that's why if we have a hand such as pocket kings, pocket queens, or pocket aces, we don't want to allow too many people into the hand because they're going to take some of our equity away. Now, let's actually take a look at some data. So I came up with a very simple scenario. Let's assume that we have ace queen offsuit, and our opponents are calling with roughly a 23% range, excluding hands that they would 3-bet for value. So pocket queens plus an ace king. And this is an example of their calling range. So a fairly wide range. And in terms of the hands here, if we just look at them, we would say, okay, well, pocket twos all the way up through pocket jacks, they're going to have decent equity. They may be ahead a little bit, but overall it's similar to a coin flip situation. And then a lot of these dominated hands, we just have them beat really bad. So if we take a look at this, we would assume, okay, we want people to call with this range because even though we are behind the pocket pairs, we're ahead of a lot of the rest of their range, right? Now, here's the thing. The more people that we let into the hand, our equity declines, which we just showed in the last slide. So let me go ahead and show you right here with this table. So against a single opponent, we have roughly 61% equity. And as we continue to add in opponents, by the time we're facing 5 opponents, our equity is only 17.91%. Now, what you're also going to notice with this is with our expected value of the play, the actual monetary amount that we expect to win, you're going to notice that it goes from 69, and by the time that we get to 5 opponents, it goes down to 22, and this is actually 0.22. So against one opponent, our EV is 0.69 big blinds, how much we expect to win. And by the time we get to 5 opponents, we still expect to win, but the amount that we expect to win is cut in half by almost 4. What's interesting in this specific scenario is that it actually goes up very slightly against 2 opponents, but then it starts to decline. So even though it jumps up a little bit, the longer trend looking at this entire thing, we're noticing that our EV declines as well as our equity. So what is this telling us? Well, it comes down to a concept that I came up with when I wrote my last book, and I call this the diminishing equity concept. And it's very simple, and it states down here on the slide, as more people enter the hand pre-flop, our probability of winning the hand declines as each player acquires their equitable fair share portion of the pot. So the main takeaway from this video and from this slide is that we thin the field to maintain our equity and to increase the EV of our hand in many situations. And realistically, with a lot of hands that rely on top pair to win a hand, such as ace queen offsuit or higher equity hands, we typically only want to play against one or two opponents, because once we get past one or two opponents, well, you know what? We're going to win less and our equity just drastically declines. So let me actually pull in Equilab. And I really want to talk about this a bit further to help you understand, even though we aren't really talking about this from a general range perspective, because this isn't a fully comprehensive course. But in terms of higher equity hands, if we think of any of our Broadway hands, so if we think of hands like all of these up here, these are hands that typically rely on top pair to win the hand. Yes, the suited ones and the offsuited ones can both make straights, and the suited ones can make flushes, but they do a lot better against one or two opponents. And we can add in some of the middling strength pocket pairs as well. Now, on the flip side, there are hands that we don't mind playing multi-ways because they're what I call speculative hands or implied odd hands. And these are going to be hands such as our weaker suited aces that really, if we get top pair, we're probably going to lose a lot of money. But if we hit the straight or the flush, we can win a lot of money. Some of our suited connectors, so for example, Jack 10, 10, 9, 9, 8, 8, 7, 7, 6, even some suited one gappers, and some of these very small baby pocket pairs. Hands like these are examples of hands that we don't mind playing multi-ways because they're really not that strong of a hand. They don't have a ton of equity to begin with, but they play well because of implied odds. But on the flip side, the other hands that we talked about up here that rely typically in many instances on making top pair and winning with top pair by the time we get to showdown, those are the hands that we really want to play against one or two opponents. And if we think about raising an early position or middle position, those are the hands that we're going to raise with a large portion of our range. And so we don't want to allow multiple people into the pot because of this concept of diminishing equity and thinning the field. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about this so you understand one of the mathematical reasons why we raise pre-flop. So if you have any questions, please let me know. If not, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next video. Take care.